Hello, today I'm going to show you how to flick comb locks of fleece into something much more spinnable, and also what to do with this stuff afterwards. So I've got right here my flick carder, I think that's what they're called. You can see it's kind of dirty already. I've been using it for a while. These things are probably one of the cheaper fiber tools to get, but you want to make sure you're getting one with short tines, because the first one I ever got, the tines were like this long, and it didn't work at all. So it needs short tines. This is probably like a 70 teeth per inch, I would guess. That's about fine. If you're working with really fine fibers, you might want a flip carder with like 100 TPI or something like that. But this is an all-purpose one, and it works on fine wool just as well, so it really doesn't matter. So I've got here just a big jumble of locks. They're all either naturally dyed or this is the original color of the wool. So let's start with this. This is some really nice gray Jacob. One thing to keep in mind, because we're flick combing locks, we want to try and keep things in lock shape as much as we can. So you can see here, it's a jumble of fleece, but with a trained eye you can pick out the locks. The tips are going to be, so this is a tip, this is part of a tip. You can see because the ends are thin, wispy, and usually lighter. So I'm just going to grab some tips and pull them apart. And then what I got here is a lock. I might just straighten it out a little. And if you have extra bits just sort of that are a different length, usually they're part of the same lock but have just gotten jumbled, so I pull them off and put them back in alignment. This is enough to comb or to card, but I like to do a couple locks at once. I find it's a little more sturdy and I don't lose quite as much fiber. So I'm going to pull some more locks. That right there is a tip. So I'm just holding the tip and pulling the mass of fiber away. I'll do one more. Sorry if I'm a little too close up. Alright, that's a nice big one. Perfect. Okay, so we've got this jumble of locks. This actually might be a little too thick, but I'll try it anyway. So what I do next, because I'm holding these locks, if I were to just start combing it on here immediately, I'd lose just so much of the good wool into the teeth. So instead you want to add a little twist. So that's one twist, and then I'll add another twist. And then I want to pinch that twist between my thumb and my forefinger right at the twist. So we want to make sure that we're brushing out the yarn, or we're brushing out the fibers. We're not pulling the fibers out. So that's why I have this twist, is to make sure the fibers stay in my hand as much as they can. So there's multiple methods of flip carding, and I switch off sometimes depending on what kind of fleece I'm using. So one of the methods is to sort of hold your flip carder and you just hit your lock with it. Oh, I'm losing wool. Goodness. I'm sitting in a park and it's all windy. It's sort of just flying away. Pick it up later, it's okay. So you just hit your wool like so. And as you can probably see, you end up with these sort of bits coming off. Maybe I'll do a little more to show you. Adjusting the camera a lot, sorry about that. Alright, yeah. So we've got this right here wants to come off. There's some bits at the end. It's not really pretty. So usually I will just pull those off if I can and integrate it back in. And you have to make sure you undo the twist when you integrate it back in, or it will just come back out again. So I could just keep hitting it like so. I find that's more effective for opening up sort of denser locks or locks that have a lot of VM in them. This one doesn't really, so at this point I would typically switch to a method more like combing it. And you can also do this on the sides of hand cards, by the way. They're really good for that. So all I'm doing is just pressing it into the tines and pulling it out. And I still, of course, have my double twist. That's very important. And so this is all nice and open. It's got like one tiny piece of VM and that's it. Nice. So now we have to do the other side. The other side looks all felted and gross, right? So we give it 2 twists. And I think I'm still gonna hit it a little to open it. Because like I said, these locks are, well, they're sort of lanolin-y still, so they're a little glued together, so hitting it actually worked quite well. And again, we've got this weirdness on the outside, so we'll let the twist out, and we'll just pull that off. Now, if you're trying to make all of your locks be aligned the same way, you certainly want to pay attention to what direction of things you're pulling off are and how you're putting them back. I'm not, because I find it only affects like really fine, really beautiful projects, like whether or not you're spinning it like that. You won't notice the difference in just your everyday pair of scarf or pair of mittens or a scarf or something, so I don't really bother. Totally up to you. So we're gonna comb this side, and because this is a 3D bundle, you want to make sure you're getting all sides. If you just comb it flat, you're not going to get all of it off. And by it, I mean the bits that aren't really spinnable. And look at that. We've got a clean couple of locks. So from here, I like to give them some twist and then just sort of let them go into a little knot. This keeps it just orderly, otherwise they kind of fall apart when you grab them again. Obviously this isn't necessary if you're just immediately going to spin it, but I will do a lot of locks and then spin them all, usually in the car later. So I'll put that to the side. You'll notice we've got a lot of probably quite usable fiber on here. I'm going to leave it. I'll show you what I do with it later. What color next? Oh, let's do this. All right, this is some Shetland. It's really nice Shetland. I process this on all of my tools, and no matter how I process it, it is always just the most beautiful fiber ever. Naturally dyed, of course, with this one is moldy yellow onion skins and marigold. The onion skins weren't supposed to be moldy, but you know how it goes. All right. So I've just sort of pulled off a bunch of just bits of locks. I should have been explaining while I did that, but you don't have to be very neat about it. I find that the neater you are in pulling the locks, the less work you have later. But if it's going to be a lot of work to pull neat locks, why bother, right? So when you look at this, you can see it's kind of got like a bunch of lumps. Like especially it's a big lump in the middle and then thinner on the sides. That says to me that I need to get these locks more aligned, because they're sort of clumping in the middle and that's not going to help us. So what I'm doing is just aligning them like this, holding each end and pulling. And that just pulls out, like it pulls your locks out, it helps you reorient them a bit. And now that's a bit better. That should be easier to comb. Card, whatever it is we're doing. Plane going by, so we'll just be quiet for a minute. it's gone enough that you can hear me. So this is what we ended up with. There is still some VM in here. So you could pick that out by hand. You could let it fall out while you're spinning, or you could give it another pass, which is what I'm going to do. Give it another 2 passes, I guess. Alright, now we're good. And so now we've got another beautiful little lock. And I'm going to add some twist again, make it into a little knot like I did with the last one. So these are what we've done so far. And, you know, this is just coming out of a bundle of fleece. It's not that this fleece, like, couldn't be spun as is, but you get such a lumpy yarn out of it. And just this quick processing on flick combs, it really helps a lot. So next maybe we'll do this pink. This is avocado dyed deboulé, and it has a ton of VM in it. That's why I still have it. This is kind of the only way to process it. This or on hand combs, because it's so fine, because it has so much VM. Cards kind of won't get that stuff out. But the tines of flick combs will. So flick combs are a really good tool for just fleece processing in general. Like, you can go through a whole big fine fleece totally inundated with VM on flick combs, and it'll take you a while, but you'll get a beautiful result. So every time, as I said, we're just twisting to keep it secure. You might need more twists, you might need less twists. Maybe you don't need twists at all. If so, you're doing something magic, I guess. See how easily this is opening up. And I didn't start with the hitting it this time, simply because I don't find it necessary on this particular fiber. I just like to go straight to combing it through the tines. Now, our flick carder is getting a bit full of fiber, so once I finish this lock, I shall show you what I like to do with the waist. It's not really combing super effectively anymore. Got a lot of little bits of VM just right here that I would like to get out. So at the moment I'm sort of focusing on combing just the very front bit. Don't really care about the ends because the ends are clean now. Of course you can always pick out pieces by hand if that seems easier than continuing to comb it. That's probably okay. A lot of the VM will fall out as I spin, so I'm not usually super worried about it. So here I want to do another pass, just because you can still see the lock structure, and that's not going to lead to even spinning. So to open up locks, like when you just want to open it up and the rest of it is fine, you don't need to comb anymore, you can just press it into the tines like I'm doing, and that alone will open it up a lot. We're pretty much good now. There we go, some beautiful pink deboulé. There is bits on the end that I never pulled off, so maybe I'll get those now. And yeah, we've got this another beautiful set of locks. So as always, we twist it. So now, as you can see, there's a lot on here, and it sort of reminds me of like the ends of a bat. They're always really messy. And what I often do with the ends of a bat is I pull it off, so I do the same thing here. And it is also like pulling off the very last bit of your hand-combed top. You know there's going to be VM in the last bit, but there's also going to be some good fibers. So right now I'm just adding a little twist, and this is to give me something to grab onto so the fibers don't all slip past. And I'm just pulling slowly and not too hard, because I'm trying to draft out these fibers rather than simply remove them from the comb. I mean, I am also removing them from the comb, but drafting them out is going to really help here. As you can see, I pull out a little bit and then I shift my grip up and then I pull out a little more. This is the same technique for pulling fibers off a comb, so I've got some practice. And we about reached the end. So here's what we got out of it. This is all the stuff that I just combed, right? There's a bit of VM, but there actually isn't much. All the colors are mixed, which I don't mind. And I mean, you know, in most cases you probably aren't going to be doing a bunch of different colors like I am. So it'd just be the same color and it wouldn't cause problems anyway. But yeah, this is perfectly spinnable. It's going to make a nice, interesting little section of my yarn. Just pull off the ends, sticking to my compression gloves. All right, so this kind of looks more like roving, and it is more like roving actually, because it's multiple locks. The ends are all sort of mixed up. So, but I'm going to do the same thing because you can store it the same way. So you just add twist. This one isn't quite as neat, but that's okay. So we do still have some more pieces, like some more on here. This is usually the shorter fibers. Sometimes you can still get some off. But for the most part, I'd kind of rather just put it in my combing waste pile because this stuff I'll use later. Getting some nice colors though. This is a good way to also blend colors. Actually, I would like to show that real quick. If we blend, for example, some yellow and some maybe gray, we'll get a really nice color. Oh, or, okay, this green. Nice. So I'm just trying to neaten up the locks a little bit. So we've got some green, we've got some yellow, and we're gonna comb them together, see how it looks. You can get some really nice colors like this, depending on what you're working with, of course. But I've also done, when I was processing a lot of that gray Jacob, there's some white section, so I was doing blends of gray and white that looked really nice. Here, this is really dense, so I am gonna hit it with the flip comb a bit, just to open it up. It's better. Alright. Now we've got a lock that is kind of just detaching here. It's not connected at all, so I am going to pull it off and just reintegrate it. This does happen quite a lot with flip combing, and if you pull off perfect locks and have them all aligned, it won't happen. So that is a reason why you might wish to do that. It doesn't really annoy me though, I don't mind. So that's why I work the way I do. So we just treat this like normal. Like the way to blend locks or to blend colors is mostly just to hold two different colors together and see what they do. Just trying to remove this little bit right here. And sometimes you might find that as you were working on one side, you sort of compacted the other, which is what I think is happening here. So usually you'll want to move your twist down a little, and then I might just open it up a bit. And there we go. So as you can see, we've got this blend of green and yellow, which is going to spin up beautifully. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the others. Yeah, look at all these. And this was what, about 20 minutes for 5 of them, and if I hadn't been talking, it would have been more like 10 minutes. And you might be wondering now, what the hell do you do with this, right? Like these tiny little bundles of fiber. Do you spin them all on a wheel? Do you spin them on a drop spindle? Like what what now, right? And I will just pull this off real quick. So personally, I really like these flick combed locks for things like small projects that you bring with you, right? Like travel projects. Me personally, I have a lot of time to spend while I'm working, when I'm just sitting at stoplights waiting. So I like having these little bundles because it means I just pick a little bundle and spin it while I'm waiting. So it's good for on-the-go stuff. It's good for small, slower projects. Like this would be a little infuriating to do on a wheel, simply because you're preparing the fiber so much slower than you're spinning it. I speak from experience here. I'm going to put all this stuff away. So I'll show you my project. My project that I've been doing with all of these, and maybe that'll destroy my bag. Maybe that'll give you some ideas. So, and you're gonna see that I haven't actually folded any of the fiber in my stash, but you know, do as I say, not as I do. Sorry, it's a bit of a mess in here. That's waste yarn. And I do also have a couple little bits of roving that I dyed for my partner and then they gave back to me. Oh, and here's the other ball. So, these two balls are entirely spun on this mini spindle out of this stuff. I'm still working on this one. This one's already done. So, what I do is just spin one lock at a time. Pick a color, spin a lock. Let's do that right now, actually. And I really love mini spindles for this because if you look, like my mini spindle is the same size as a lock, right? So all this stuff fits in a little bag or a pocket really easily. And so you can just have a lock and a little spindle, and you can, if you're waiting in line, just start spinning, you know? And you don't have to carry a whole huge thing around. To attach them, I mean, you know, everyone attaches yarn different ways. I usually just let them overlap, and then I'll go in and spit felt it real quick. Just, like, spit felt the join. I don't often spin on camera, sorry. Oh, goodness. Well, that's not ideal. Sorry, this is also messy, but I promise it's usually easier. It usually takes me like a minute or two to spin a lock, so a couple of stoplights maybe. So I prepare my locks, you know, when I've got a longer moment, and then when I'm just only have a moment or two, I'll spin a lock. And the amount of yarn I've made while doing this is actually kind of astounding, because I have never dedicated more than half an hour at a time to working on this. It's such a quick little project. And it's also really satisfying, like just this nice little ball. I've showed it before in videos, but... So yeah, I hope this has, you know, convinced you to try out flick combing. And I really recommend it for problem fleeces, especially, because, you know, trying to card a fleece into Rolags, like when it's just got tons of VM, it's just gonna take so long, it's gonna be so miserable, and you're gonna get so little of the VM out, or at least that's been my experience. So these cards, they really work so well. Mine was only $8, like they're really, really cheap. You could probably use like a hairbrush or something if you were really desperate, although I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, and these little bits of fluff are so fun to spin, especially just to add into little projects. Like if you've got a spinning project and you've also got a little bundle of fluff, you could just add it in whenever, and that's quite satisfying as well. So yeah, thank you for watching, and have a good day.